I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Good morning. Welcome to the International Saturday Morning Freedom Forum. Each and every week we want to inspire, engage, and inform you. This has been an exciting and yet challenging week as we look at one of the most important elections most of our lifetimes. Everything that we fought for was on the ballot. Every victory that we've won was on this ballot this week. And we're going to do a post-election analysis today. Just part one to share with you some of the insight that we have. We have some of our team members from Texas, Indiana, Kentucky, Georgia, some of those battleground states sharing some information. We have, of course, Reverend Jesse Jackson to give us his prophetic insight. We have our National Board Chair, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. We have Attorney Barbara Unwine, who will be on. We have Dr. Todd Yeary, our Senior Executive Vice President. Attorney Barbara Unwine, of course, is our partnership head of the Transformative Justice Coalition. And we have also on our Southeast Regional Director, Robert Patillo, and our National Field Director, Bishop Tavis Grant. All of them will share some insights and some how we should be viewing this election season and what we've gained, what we've learned, and what we must now do as we move forward. Today we dedicate the broadcast to one of the award-winning gospel artists, one of the greatest artists that we know, Rance Allen, who made his transition this week. He did so much for so many congregations, for so many people. His music has been such a blessing across the years. We thank God for not just his music, but his commitment to social justice. Also, today, we want to remind you to get involved and get engaged. We have 3 upcoming events that you don't want to miss. They're all virtual, so you can still shelter in place. One is our Telcom Summit. It's coming up November 18th, 19th, and 20th. And we're going to be looking at what does it mean when we look at this telecom industry. Are we benefiting as people of color? How do we do business? And then the question is, should broadband be like gas and light, electricity? Should it be treated in the same manner as necessary, a public utility? The other question we're going to look at is the digital education. What does that look like in this era of COVID? So you don't want to miss the Telcom Summit. We thank Bishop Steve Smith, who is organizing that summit for you. You need to get ready to register right now, and you'll see more information on the screen. On November 19th, Thursday evening, we're going to have a powerful education summit. Dr. Sonia Whitaker is organizing for us. Our National Education Policy Director will be organizing a major education summit sponsored by Push for Excellence. You don't want to miss this. We're inviting educators and parents from all around the world to tune in as we look at where we are in education, what our policy issues are, what is our agenda for 2021. I know parents, you're wondering, how do you do digital education so to make sure that every child is reading at or above grade level? How do we make sure that this distance learning is impacting our community and our children in a positive way, and that they're prepared for from elementary to high school to college or career? We'll be looking at some of those issues and many other policy issues in the wake of the election, but as we look forward to 2021. And then finally in December, we have our Automotive Summit. All of these summits are virtual. how are we doing in the automotive industry? Are we a part of the franchises of the automotive industry? Do we have our share of Black-owned dealerships? Are we supplying our goods and services to the automotive industry? What does it look like? What's the scorecard? What's the report card on the automotive industry? You don't want to miss that summit. It's virtual and it'll be in December. You'll see more about that on the screen today. Get ready, get registered. So you have three things: Telcom, Push Excel Education Summit, and the Detroit Automotive Summit. All of these are powerful events that you don't want to miss. And then of course, the entire month of December is anniversary month. You're going to be excited. You're going to be blessed as we celebrate the Rainbow Push anniversary throughout the month of December. Every Saturday, it'll be something special. You don't want to miss it. We love you. Stay tuned, stay engaged, stay involved. Join Push today. We need your membership. We need you, if you're already a member, to get 10 other people you know in your family, on your job, in your sphere of influence, some of your friends on Facebook. Get them to become a part of this movement for change. Get engaged, get involved. It's $35 a year, $15 for seniors and students. You don't want to miss an opportunity to invest in a movement that impacts you in a very positive way. Thank you.
We knew this was going to go long, but look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote that it was going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted.
Thank you. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this.
I came down so early that I was the first person in line to vote.
I know people who passed away from the virus. We need to get our arms around it, get a vaccine.
Election day, so I wanted to come here to vote today on the election day.
Good to be home.
I feel very good. After doing that many rallies, the voice gets a little bit choppy, I think. God did not design it for that much, but we did a lot of them.
It's going to be a big red wave coming in today. Hopefully, Donald Trump wins.
I'm 18 and I finally voted for the first time, so woo!
Today is a day that many of us have been waiting for 4 years. Who would have known we were this patient?
I really feel that this election is very important, very vital to the country.
Reverend Jackson, we want to thank you for convening this meeting, this post-election discussion. Again, our discussions are preliminary because we don't have the final results of the presidential election, but we thought it was so important, Reverend, just as you said to us, for us to have this discussion now so we can sit and discuss our preliminary observations, the voter suppression that we witnessed, some of the things that we saw this time around that differed from before, and also the extraordinary efforts of Rainbow Push and some of Rainbow Push's coalition partners out there nationally in the field. And so for this discussion, we have just the pleasure, in addition to Reverend Jesse Jackson, and let's just talk for one moment about this living legend whose shoulders we all stand on, who's fighting the good fight every single day and who's convening this meeting. And Reverend, we thank you so much for all that you do day in and day out. You were fighting last night till 2 a.m. And so it's amazing what you're always there. You always stand for justice and what's right. And for that, we applaud you and we love you and we stand on your shoulders. So we just have to give a round of applause for Reverend Jackson again for always being there and doing all that you do, Reverend. And so Reverend has convened a roundtable with, there's only one Rodney Ellis. Only one Rodney Ellis in the whole wide world. That's what we say. But we know him as a commissioner now in Harris County, Texas. Harris County is the size of Rhode Island. Am I right, Commissioner Ellis?
A little larger in terms.
A little larger than the size of Rhode Island. We saw Harris County displayed prominently in this election because they worked hard, tenaciously, and in a miraculous way to bring about justice and protecting the right to vote in Texas. It was so.
They're trying to take away 127,000 votes.
That's right, Reverend. In fact, we're lucky. As much as I wish Texas had been closer, I think on my numbers, Trump is about 5.8, Biden about 5.1. If there had been 127,000 vote difference, that would have been in court. But, Reverend, look, when you came through here running for president, you might remember it was in Texas that Jim Hightower was land commissioner, was the first white elected official, statewide elected official in America to endorse you. And I think you sensed even back then with the excitement you had in South Texas, that this is a state that ought to not be ignored. I mean, with 38 electoral votes, if we ever get it right, the Republicans could turn off the lights because it would mean so much.
I honestly, Texas is too blue to be so red. Your needs are blue. Healthcare, everything you have is you're too blue to be red.
I know. Romeo Beto had that line when he was running. He said, Texas is not a red state, it's a blue state that does not vote. And it took me a while to catch it. Only 4 minority states in America right now. The dominoes are falling, but I always run through the CK, Hawaii, New Mexico, California, then Texas.
Yep.
In great part because of our Hispanic population. But look, Harris County is a little under 5 million people. If the census gets right, we may end up being a little larger than Cook County. Well, we're about the same size. And historically, because of our restrictive voter registration laws, one of the strictest voter ID laws in the country, it was hard to get people out. But what we did on Commissioner's Court, Democrats just took over 2 years ago. When I left the state senate and came here, I was the only person of color, only Democrat, in part because of great candidates and Beto raising an unprecedented amount of money for the U.S. Senate. We took over Commissioner's Court. We put $27 million into making it easier for people to vote. 800 voting locations, drive-in voting. Everybody in Texas loved that. They love their cars. All of us, too big, those guzzlers. But we pulled it up under the statute. It said a structure, the statute said that could include a tent-like structure. So that's what we did. And we had 24-hour voting, a lot of excitement, a lot of resources came in. I appreciate the Vice President, Senator Harris. They put a lot of money in. Senator West, African-American state senator, ran, did not get the nomination. We ended up with MJ Hager, but money came in for her, about $27 million. She was not my first choice, but was a better choice than Cornyn. But look, we held on to all of the countywide offices are Democratic here now. We did not do as well. We lost about 90,000 Hispanic votes in South Texas. And I think that the early analysis is those digital ads, whatever the Trump side is doing with these digital ads, every time something pops up, he was getting a lot of misinformation out there. We should not have lost those votes. But look, I'm just hoping that we get an inspirational candidate running for Senate or governor next cycle. We didn't have that at the top of our ticket. You know, we had the president and vice president, Biden and Harris, but below that, we didn't have the kind of excitement statewide. If we get it next go around, we might make a difference. Pick up the House, but we didn't.
I'm cautiously optimistic because a house this divided is in real trouble.
Yeah.
I think that Harris and Biden, as it were, Biden-Harris and really Obama, a solid campaign. The issue pandemic 19 was a real thing. Affordable health care, living wages, in globalized, in race antagonism. They ran a solid campaign, and that they should be plausible. On the other hand, Biden ran in spite of disregarding the pandemic.
Yeah.
These guys, weapons, AK-47, AR-15s, threatening people to kill people, threatening to kidnap the governor of Michigan and Virginia. So I think that the plywood they putting up was not for civil rights people marching, it was for these people, these guns marching.
Mm-hmm.
Robert?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Robert, we're here in Georgia. So when we were talking about, without a question, Texas made its mark, no matter how you slice it, because the opinion, Rodney, that came out of the court there was unprecedented. And so we know the next time around, we know how to do it. In Georgia, we believe, because we did have someone on the ticket. We did have Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff on the ticket. And so I think when you do have others on the ticket, it does make a difference. And we are very close, Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, to seeing the Biden-Harris ticket win Georgia. And
you're absolutely correct. And let's think about how Georgia has been trending for the last 20 years. We all remember when we had Zell Miller, the Democratic senator, speaking at the Republican National Convention in 2004. That's how conservative the state was just 15 or 20 years ago. So the fact that President Obama knew Georgia in 2012, we saw a good showing from Hillary in 2016, Stacey Abrams, of course, in 2018, within 2 percentage points, and all the way till Georgia being a toss-up state right now, despite all of the roadblocks that have been put in place to try to negate voting in Georgia. You can't run from demographics, but for so long. We're a state that's 35% African-American, 11% Latino, 5% Asian American, 52% women. Atlanta's known for being one of the LGBTQ centers in the country. And because of that, despite voter ID, despite the 2011 compromise that cut down on the number of early voting days, despite the voter suppression that we saw both in 16 and 18 in the state, overwhelming numbers of people turned out to vote. And because of that, we are still in toss-up territory with votes outstanding both in Fulton County and in DeKalb County, as well as additional votes coming in Gwinnett County. Now, as far as voter suppression goes, we saw it beginning first thing in the morning. I think the first call that I made to CK yesterday morning was to tell her about Spalding County, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. The entire voting system went down for 3 hours, and we had to go to court and talk to election officials to extend voting hours at the end of the evening. And those polls stayed open there because of our efforts all the way until 9 o'clock at night. I think the last person got out of line at nearly 10 o'clock at night. Similarly, in DeKalb County, we had to do a massive public information campaign in coordination with the Urban League, Fair Fight Georgia, NAACP, and other civil rights organizations, because between Friday and Monday, almost 40 voting precincts were changed at the last minute. People were sent postcards, but there was mass confusion on election day with regards to where people's polling location were. And we had to have phone bankers and text bankers communicating with voters in DeKalb.
What I'm astonished by is the fact that 250,000 people are dead, millions are infected, jobs lost by the millions, and yet that's lost in the politics of a bishop. You not think you run against a guy who's been impeached a guy who ignored signs that cost millions of lives. That was lost, it seemed to me, lost in the scheme of things. Bishop.
Well, the polarizing nature of this election, 67% of the persons who voted for Trump were white. And yet I believe, without being gratuitous, CK, that this election is a model of the combination of 84, 88, the consolidating of power and the coalitions that were built, Rodney, since 2018, Petrillo. We're seeing it in Wayne County. We're seeing it in Milwaukee County. When you see souls to the polls in Milwaukee, turning the corner and the same margins that Trump won the first time, and the same margins that Biden is winning this time. DeKalb County and Fulton County, Allegheny County, you're looking in key areas where in 84, 88, the Jackson campaign laid a foundation that many conventional thinkers said wouldn't work. It looks like America's waking up, and it looks like this election, in spite of the pandemic, there's a part of the electorate that wanted to reward bad behavior, misogynistic behavior, racist, xenophobic behavior. And there's another part of America, when you look at Arizona, when you look at Nevada, when you look at Colorado, when you look at Maine, when you look at some of these key areas where consolidated power has come to the forefront, from Minnesota to Louisville, Kentucky, we put in significant amount of work in the past 6 months, and the work of Rainbow Push Coalition pays off. And we're in a better position today to move America forward than we ever been. It's a great moment.
Every vote counts is a real deal. Now, you couldn't beat Nixon by 113,000, one vote per precinct. Every vote does count, Rodney. No about this.
Well, and Reverend, obviously there will be litigation. That's why it's good that CK has organized folks all around the country, because this could drag on in the courts for a while. And obviously that has an impact on our reputation around the world. It's having an impact on markets as well. But what we have now is a certain element of thuggery. I don't know any other way to describe it, where even before the next morning, the White House was already coming out making statements saying that they were going to contest something. Wait a minute, just want to go to court and say, stop counting.
Right.
I mean, that is the strangest
thing.
He said stop voting.
In 2000, they stopped the count with 27,000 votes in Nevada County uncounted. The 27,000 black votes were not counted, and they stopped the count at midnight.
Yeah. And imagine, we won't know until 100 years from now, when those boxes opened, who really won the presidency. I have my speculation, obviously my guess, of whether or not there ever would have been a Bush presidency.
Two things we've learned, Rodney, is the census count and voting counts.
Yeah.
And people who turn out count. And by the end of the day, when we calculate all of this, we're going to have a brand new coalition that can move this country forward.
Absolutely, because one thing that we did see, our communities, Black folks got out and voted. They did early voting. That was amazing. Reverend Jackson, just as Bishop Tavis Grant said, your efforts have paid off, the fruits of your labor. All of the registering, the millions of people that you registered over the years, the roadmap that you gave us in this country, it's paid off because our people came out in droves all over throughout the country. If that hadn't happened, we would never have had a shot. The Democrats would never have had a shot at winning the presidential election. Never. But for early voting and all the African-American voters that got out before, their votes were in before. And for those who couldn't do the early voting, on election day. But there were so few, relatively speaking, that voted on election day as compared to all the early voting. So that message was clear, despite COVID. And I think there's something, so we have to look at the silver lining in some of this cloud that we're seeing.
Yeah, so the basketball lines around the block.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the NBA and those guys that are applause too, because the appeal of them to the young people was awesome.
Now, when you talk to NBA, you talking about the National Basketball Association or the National Bar Association? I think it's the National Bar Association, but I guess it's the National Basketball Association. Reverend, I'm just messing with you. I know it's the National Basketball Association, but the National Bar Association has to make sure that the National Basketball Association can be protected if there are challenges. See, that's how we're all linked together.
I got it.
You know, I do appreciate so many of our athletes, by the way, really getting out there, active. You know, we had Rockets, we had Texans, you know, we had voting at our stadiums here, and the players actually came out. Not just, it's one thing to kneel, and that's so important, but they were also willing to take a stand and make the case. Common was here. I mean, that was a lot of excitement, and the money came in, by the way. I think at the end of the day, it will show that the Democrats outspent the Republicans. They had the power of incumbency, by the way. A big regret is we haven't done better with a lot of these state houses, because as you mentioned, Bishop Tavis Grant, redistricting is on the table as a result of the census. Of course, we know he reduced the timetable and took the money out for census. So it shows how important these local offices are, because if we don't have the feds do it, we got to try to pay for it on the state or the local level to get counted. And then drawing those lines, that's going to be a big problem.
And what's critical to this is moving forward, November 10th, there's going to be a very strong attempt to dismantle affordable health care. Along with that, Petrillo, is some 200 plus federal judges. And while the president in the 11th hour tried to talk about commuting the sentence of Kwame Kilpatrick, there are thousands and thousands of people who are just waiting to go to trial. And so criminal justice reform is still in play. The economy is still in play in spite of the pandemic.
He committed 9 out of 47 blacks, high profile, you know. 200 judges are all white judges.
Yeah.
And that's critical to us moving forward into 2021 in down ballot across the board. You know, Reverend Jackson was very supportive, CK, of Proposition 22 in California that leveled the playing field for Lyft and Uber drivers, as we must put back on the board several things. One is a $15 wage, a guaranteed minimum wage. It's just ridiculous to have people earning $7 or $8 an hour in this economy. Here's another thing that comes into play. So you'll like this, Reverend Jackson, DC statehood. We can no longer sit back and let the Electoral College be as significant as it is compared to the popular vote. And a new challenge. We ought to join the fight to abolish the Electoral College, because it is disproportional in its application and very much unconstitutional. We should have a system, Petrillo, that every vote counts. A plain and simple democratic system that whoever gets the most votes, it works everywhere else in our democracy. Why shouldn't it work in the presidential election?
One person, one vote.
Well, to that point, let's remember that in 8 of the last 10 elections, Republicans have not gotten the majority in the popular vote. In the last 30 years, Republicans won the popular vote one time. That was 2004. In my lifetime, the only times Republicans have won the popular vote was 1988 and in 2004 again. So because of that, Republicans have learned that despite being a minority party in the country, they are able to continue their ideals and their ideas of these Federalist Society, original intent types of ideas from the shadows by entrenching themselves in the judiciary, just as we saw in apartheid South Africa.
What I find to be very dangerous habit, the idea that people walk around open carry weapons, as in Texas, Rodney, as Oklahoma, as in Michigan, and run a bus off the side of the road. They thought the vice president on it and Kamala. I mean, I think the plywood was really about handling that threat. And that threat may not be over, CK.
Yeah, no, it's not over. It's not over. There were so many. I was on the National Command Post for the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights, the election protection litigation, a lot of it that resulted. And there were so many acts of voter suppression, intimidation at the polls, nationwide, Reverend, nationwide yesterday. But people stood there and said they were not going to be deterred. And the effort of the clergy, along with the lawyers, arm in arm at the polls, de-escalating, played a big role because there were people there with guns. There was a drive-by in Philadelphia next to a polling place. I don't know if people used to hearing shots or whatever, but they were deterred for a few minutes and then they went right back to voting. And what I said, by people, there was a rapid response team in place to take care of it and to protect the voters, and then they just continued voting. There were people who came up in trucks and parked their trucks in front of the door so people couldn't gain access to polling places. All kinds of stuff. But nonetheless, the election officials, hand in hand with lawyers, clergy, and others in our grassroots community, our community organizers, were able to de-escalate and make sure that the elections continue.
Good morning. We are in the midst of a major drive to get more members, more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those incarcerated, change the policies that impact students attending colleges and universities, if you want to be a policymaker, then you need to join Rainbow Push and join by paying your $35 right now. Some of you watch us every week. You listen to us on the radio. You're viewing us in social media. We need you to become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, we've awarded more than $10 million to scholars year to date. What do you have to do to give and support Push? It's really very simple. You can go to rainbowpush.org if you're on a computer and press donate. Give any amount. Every dollar is important. You want to talk to somebody, call us at 773-256-2775. You can give right now, any denomination that you choose. You can text the word PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. Text the word on your cell phone. Most of you have a cell phone. Just text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. And you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving. Or call us 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and just press donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Deborah Verholden. I'm an epidemiologist and the Associate Dean of Public Health Integration at Michigan State University. On behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition, I'd like to talk to you today. I know these seem like tough times. We're in the midst of a big national election. Everybody's eagerly awaiting to see what the results will be. And at the same time, we've seen record numbers of cases in this coronavirus pandemic. I'm here to reassure you, we will get through this pandemic. And I'm encouraging all of you to do everything that you can to keep you and your family and your loved ones and your community safe. You've heard these messages, but I want to reiterate them. The three most important things that you can do are to practice good hand hygiene, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer when you're out, a sanitizer that is at least 60% alcohol. It's important that you wear your mask. In the absence of a national mask mandate, and even if there's no mask mandate in your state or in your county, that mask protects you from others and it protects others from you. It's also important, and I know it's tough, we've got to continue to practice social distancing. That is keeping at least 6 feet of space between you and others, even with your mask on. And please avoid large gatherings. The more people come together, the more likely it is that you could infect somebody else or somebody else can infect you. Again, I know these times seem tough, and it's important now more than ever that you practice self-care. Your well-being is the most important thing right now. What does that mean? I want to give you 3 things to do. I want you to make sure that you're eating well. Eat the healthiest, high-nutrient diet that you can afford. I want you to move your arms and legs at least 30 minutes a day. If you can't get outside of your house, if it's too cold, what I say is mop that floor like nobody's watching. Turn on your favorite music and dance around. Have a praise and worship moment and move your arms and legs 30 minutes every day. And also sleep. Sleep is our body's chance to restore, repair, and heal itself. Sleep is restorative, and it's important now more than ever. And more than anything, make sure that you reach out. You might not be able to gather with friends and family the way that we want to, but you can reach out by phone. You can reach out by email, phone a friend. Get what you need from others and make sure that others are able to get what they need from you. And if it feels like it's too much, please seek care. There's plenty of good mental health and behavioral health care in our communities. And we also have many faith leaders at the ready to help usher you through what seems like a tough season. I know these are uncertain times, and we'll be okay, and you'll be okay. On behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition, I'm Dr. Deborah Verholden. Keep hope alive. Be safe.
Thank you so much for that. We have joining us now, perhaps the hardest working person I know who has traveled across this country for this election. I mean, she's like Manny Lou Hamer, Sojourner Truth, and Dr. Dorothy Height, and so many other women I know, and not to exclude men, but Attorney Barbara Unwin. We are so excited that you are able to still be up alert. I know how hard you've been working to kind of just share some of your preliminary post-election analysis for us.
The most important lesson is that Black people are flexible and that we are learners because African Americans had to vote in a total different style. A style that's been traditionally very hostile to us, and that's called vote by mail absentee balloting. It has never favored us. It's always been problematic because it requires so much education in order to do it effectively. Yet the stats are telling us that we used absentee balloting at a very high rate. And they're also telling us that we turned out in person at these polling sites, that we did both of them tremendously, especially during early voting, that we heard the message, the early vote, and we did that. And as you notice, as you're watching these results, folks, and you saw the big switch in Wisconsin, you noticed in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Georgia, look at where those votes are coming from. They're coming from the, quote, urban areas. That's Black people. And I want folks to really understand that, we really, and I was very proud to see how seriously Black people are taking and took their duty, their obligation, their citizenship requirement, their John Lewis Good Trouble instruction to vote. So I think that's just a story you can't get around, because we not only, it looks like we came out in historic numbers again, that we blew away, 2016 for sure. And it looks like we're about to set a new record. So that even though you had some shifts with more Black men voting for Trump, but let's get that clear. It's only 4% more than in 2016. It's not all this nonsense people were predicting. It's about what I projected. I said, he would not get more than 18% of Black men, no matter how much they tried and did whatever they wanted to. I said it just wasn't likely. And he did increase, his Black women's share by about 4%. So that much we do know, but I just want people to keep it right. But he also increased white women by 3%. But the only category, fascinatingly, where what we've been able to see where people voted very differently than they voted in 2016 were white men. For this time, the president received less white male votes than he did in 2016. So, there's a lot of data that's still out there. I can't wait to see what the youth vote looked like. I can't wait to see, what, many other communities' votes look like, because only some of the top line data is available to us right now. But I am so proud, beyond belief, of the African-American vote, because it was on fire and people did that thing. They got out there and they stood in line for 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Somebody stood in line for 16 hours and they voted like their lives depended on it, our lives depended on it, because they understood that the country's soul depended on this. And some people are saying, well, that's not fair. Black people shouldn't have to save America. But listen, when has it been a crime or a shame or something that you should be angry about when you're a savior? There's something good about that, folks. There's something good about our historic tradition of bringing moral authority into the space of the politics of America and demanding change. So I don't want folks to get confused. This is an election. Now comes the accountability. Once all the votes are in and we do have a declared winner, then comes the issues of accountability, because everybody you, in essence, elected to office now has to be accountable for delivering to our community. And that's the fight. So, this is not just a November 3rd reality. It's a 365-day-a-year reality.
One of the challenges we have to recognize is that the election is part of systemic change. And so some elections you win, some elections you may not win, but you got to engage between the elections to make sure that you're making progress on policy. I think one of the things that we seized in the moment, but we relied on too heavily, was the importance of a singular act instead of connecting the dots between why this election matters and the work that has to be done. And then to drill down, we talked about folks voting down ballot, but we didn't necessarily connect the dots with how the down ballot agenda would actually be extended and expanded at the top of the ticket. And so we've got to tell a complete sermon. We got to put a whole message. We got to get the 3 points together, not just give the him and the who, but we've got to get to the substantive points about what's changing the fabric of America. This is not a surprise in many ways. When we look at the way the map is played out, I think we were all encouraged by early voting. But if we were to be really honest, we knew this election was going to come down to the key states where we're waiting to hear from even right now. Georgia is somewhat in play, but Georgia is still, in some ways, a work in progress. North Carolina is still a work in progress. How do we, I think to the point that was made earlier, build on that progress and make sure that we don't just leave things hanging on the thread of waiting on the next election and hoping that there's some charismatic candidate that's going to galvanize and mesmerize us into a stupor that's going to lead to substantive change. We've got to build a pipeline of leaders that are running for everything from, let's just call it, from dog catcher to US Senator, to president, to mayor. We've got to frame it, we've got to build it, we've got to execute it. Remember, the contract with America started in 1994, but the bounty on America started manifesting with the presidency of Donald Trump, where it was just that obvious. And so we got to make sure that we never have to revisit this kind of scenario again, but we have a holistic, comprehensive strategy of social justice and civic change that's going to carry us forward, not just for an election, but for all of our days to come.
Here in Georgia, and what we have to do is we have to hold tight and hold on, because in my impression, Biden and Harris are going to take Georgia. We just need to let the process take its course. Why? I'm in DeKalb County. I'm a DeKalb County voter, and Fulton County is right. I'm 10 seconds away from Fulton County. And what I know about Fulton County and DeKalb County is that they are going to be able to, they're very progressive, and Biden, Harris will, I believe those counties will take them over the top to a victory. And so I agree with Bishop Tavis Grant, we need to have a study. So to everybody out there who voted despite COVID, despite the odds, despite all these pandemics, police brutality, election suppression, and COVID-19. We say thank you, and this is just the first stage, because we've got to keep on keeping on and pushing. Don't be discouraged because of what we're seeing, because of the numbers, because at the end of the day, we have to keep hope alive, and we have to remember that old Portuguese expression, a luta continua, vitória é certa. The struggle continues, but victory is certain.
I'd say we got to keep hope alive. We got to do our homework, do the analysis, figure out what we did right, what we did wrong, thank people who were with us, start registering right away. We have 254 counties in Texas. Any ideas that I can get from another county, I'm going to get them. Any ideas I can share with other counties, I'm going to do that. And we got to recruit more diverse candidates and people who stand for something. It's not enough to just get some money and say I'm running. But we got to take a page out of that playbook, get more candidates out here running. I love Reverend's line from years ago, back in '82. I remember him saying, if we run, we might lose. If we don't run, we do lose. So we just keep going. We don't stop.
I would say, as our illustrious president said, stand by and stand down, but stand by. Because right now, what we're going to be seeing over the next couple of weeks are President Trump's already filed a lawsuit in Michigan and many of these close states. We're going to see electoral challenges. Many of these things will go to the state courts, then to the circuit courts, and some may even work their way up to the Supreme Court, where he specifically installed and confirmed a United States Supreme Court justice in just over 30 days in record time for the specific reason of hearing electoral challenges. So what we need to do is have, as a legal community, be ready to provide additional pro bono services. Organizations need to be prepared to file amicus briefs in their state, and we have to be prepared for this legal battle, because the election is not over today. It's not even close to over. We're just hitting halftime. So once the marching band is off the field, we got to get right back out there and start playing.
We've got to hold on to the gains that we've accomplished in this cycle. Secondly, we've got to make Raphael Warnock's race a national race. We got to make it a referendum on moving the ball forward in taking the Senate, moving forward in the next 2 years. Last but not least, we've got to consolidate this power and leverage it in the states, in the battleground states where we have won the battle. We've got to go into state legislatures. We've got to have impact from a legislative and a public policy standpoint. And we've got to expand our coalition and bring in new partners and bring in new allies. The race is not given to the swift or to the strong, but to he or she who endures until the end. We can make this happen. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
The 2020 US election is going down to the wire, with Joe Biden currently holding a noticeable lead. But sitting President Donald Trump will not back down without a fight. The Trump campaign has turned to the courts to stop vote counting and invalidate ballots that are yet to be counted, especially as the remaining mail-in ballots seem to favor the Democrats in some key battleground states. President Trump has called for a recount of votes in Wisconsin after its 10 electoral votes were won by the Democrats by just over 20,000 votes. The Trump campaign has also filed a lawsuit to halt ballot counting in Pennsylvania. The state's 20 electoral votes are hotly contested, and Trump's campaign claims that Republicans were unlawfully denied from observing counting processes. Lawsuits to stop counting votes have also been filed in Michigan, where 16 electoral votes went to the Democrats in another narrow victory. The Trump campaign says that Republican representatives were also denied access to ballot counting procedures. Georgia and its 16 electoral votes also appears to be on the cusp of being called, with President Trump holding a dwindling lead of less than half a percentage point. Trump's legal team filed a lawsuit that alleges absentee ballots received after the voting day deadline in Georgia were mixed in with other votes, and that they should be separated and not counted. The Nevada Supreme Court has given the Trump campaign until November 9 to complete filings in a case they opened to attempt to stop mail-in ballot counting in Las Vegas. Nevada's 6 electoral votes are up for grabs, with less than 10,000 votes separating the candidates and almost 400,000 still to be counted. Meanwhile, Arizona's ballot counting facility in Maricopa County has been shut down to the public amid safety concerns after armed Trump supporters gathered outside the building.
Count my vote! Count my vote! Count my vote!
This comes after Fox News called the state's 11 electoral votes in favor of the Democrats. Even though mail-in ballots favoring Trump continue to roll in, narrowing the Democrats' lead in the state.
There were some people who were turned away, like giving provisional ballots to Latino or Latinx voters, simply because they didn't speak English the way people wanted them to speak English. We know that's not right, but nonetheless, intervention.
6 million voters like blacks couldn't vote.
Yep.
18-year-olds couldn't vote. What women couldn't, some jurors in the South could vote on campuses, and you could vote bilingually. That came with a package.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know,
one of the things, Reverend, we may have learned is, and you've said it over and over again, you know, we have polling places, CK, in Cook County that allowed inmates who are waiting to go to trial the right and access to vote and participate in the democracy.
In the prison,
but
yeah.
In the prison. And a part of this, CK, was the discipline to, if they moved a poll, find the poll. Yeah. And then once you got to the poll, no matter how long it took, the discipline to stay in line, the determination to cast your vote, and then having a sense of dignity about it. I think that we're seeing a resurgence from the late 60s and the early 70s where we were really mobilized like never before, but we've consolidated power significantly to use this model moving forward, that these principles do work. The fact that we didn't give Trump and others a commercial, the outbreak in Philadelphia, the drive-by that CK talked about, we didn't give in to these tactics that caused us to compromise our dignity.
Bishop, your work in Kenosha was legendary. Nick had 10,000. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you, sir. I can know, and here are the numbers as we are, Petrillo. Biden won Kenosha 2-1 inside Kenosha County.
That's impressive.
Right outside of Milwaukee County. I mean, the significant work of civil rights organizations, or organizations like the National Bar Association, and athletes, and pastors, and churches, and labor, and the LGBTQ community. This is
and multiracial.
And multiracial. We've got an opportunity to wake America up. We just can't go to sleep at the wheel. We've come too far to turn around. We might fall back, but we can't turn back.
You know, it is amazing. So many people were willing to put themselves on the line despite the lack of empathy from the White House. You know, in Texas, when they commandeered the Biden-Harris bus, Trump goes out to a rally and encourages it. I mean, that's, you know, so that really shows a real resurgence, as you said, of that civil rights attitude, Reverend, that was so much a part of your life.
They were not running for better health care or jobs. They ran on race, racial fear. People who are for Obamacare, they want Obamacare, they ran on racial fear. That's what's the deficit about the 50-50 split.
And you know, and that's the sad thing about it being so close. I mean, and the posters, I mean, all the posters need to get another profession. Because
that's what we right. They got that wrong. 100 miles an hour going south. But you know, but I mean, really, I mean that's the biggest thing. 100 miles an hour going south. I mean, they just got that wrong. But you know, Reverend, as we bring this program to a close and this discussion to a close, we again are going to take your lead, and you have told us to keep hope alive, that it's not over yet, and it's not. And as we've been speaking, CNN called Biden said that Biden has won Wisconsin. As we've been speaking, just in this conversation here, this dialogue.
Okay.
So,
a third of the Senate begins in 2 years. The next race begins today.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. So we are going to say thank you, Reverend. I've been given my marching orders to, first of all, you, Reverend Jackson, for all that you do, to Robert Patillo, who is our Southwest Regional Director of Rainbow Push Coalition, extraordinary civil rights lawyer, radio show host, you name it, he is extraordinary lawyer. To Bishop Tavis Grant, what can we say about you in Indiana, holding down the fort, all the work that you're doing throughout the country and being there and standing for justice. We thank you. To Commissioner Rodney Ellis, as I said, there's only one Rodney Ellis in the country and in the world. And for all the work that you're doing in Harris County, that young man that you all appointed to serve as, I believe he was the clerk,
Chris Hollins.
Chris Hollins.
You'll hear about him again. We're gonna run him statewide.
Absolutely, but we saw Rodney Ellis all over this. We saw, didn't we, Reverend? We saw his fingerprint. We knew that Harris County was in good hands because of Commissioner Rodney Ellis, and we thank you for all that you do. And for all of those at Rainbow Push who work every day tirelessly to keep hope alive, to keep Reverend's dream alive, and our fearless leader, we say thank you.
Hi, I'm Todd Yeary here outside Dr. King's workshop, the Rainbow Push headquarters, where people of goodwill from all walks and all places gather as comrades in the movement for justice and equality. Social justice movements have been birthed in the imaginations of people in places just like this. You can be a part of this justice movement too. Join Rainbow Push as we fight for justice in the 21st century. Go to rainbowpush.org or dial 773-FREEDOM and remember, keep hope alive.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did and what we did and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, about Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the US, but around the world.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement.